Hi everyone, it's Denise with Wondubar Crafts. So today I wanted to show you guys some of the quilts that I made. Wasn't very happy with and kind of explain a little bit why. I am almost finished with that first instructional guide essentially for that first block I want to do, or wall hanging I should say. And I'm going to do it as a giveaway. So that way all of my subscribers, international and in the US, can have it. I know some of you that journal are probably going to be like, well, I don't want it, and that's okay. I just didn't know that some of you have sewing machines and you'd like to learn how to do a few things, try a few projects. It's always worth a try, right? So anyway, so I have been working on that. And so I pulled out the quilts that, some of the first ones I made, and they're still nice, but they're just not, I did some things that perhaps I should have done better or done some thought process on them before I did them. Okay, so I got a little stack here. I do have other ones too, but they're kind of really big and I didn't want to, I've got like quilt tops that I haven't finished. So I'm happy with them, but I just haven't finished them. And so I figure I need to get on the ball and get to finishing them. So this is one of the first quilts that I did. It's teacups. And the reason why I really, I liked this fabric and this fabric, but I really didn't make, I don't think, very good choices with the coffee cups. Although coffee cups come in different variations and stuff. I should have probably coordinated more with the fabric because at the time I had done sewing, but I was really new to quilting. And, when you sew up using a pattern making clothes, you don't really, you do pay attention to the color schemes, but I didn't really work with cotton a lot. So, understanding, the salvage portion that have the little dots of different color, you use those to help coordinate your fabrics together. So I didn't really do a good job. It's not bad. And I hand sewed, I kind of did like a whip stitch to sew on the coffee cup handles, which is okay, but in some spots they really stand out and I just didn't like it, Not to say that it's not cute, but I could have chose like this fabric for the border here, or even just like make it look like a shelf and done something that was brown, right? So, and then I did a miter border on it, which did not line up here, and I was like, oh, well, who's going to see it? But I started noticing I seen it. So it kind of bothered me. It doesn't come to the point all the way. But you gotta sometimes, and I'll tell you on most of these, my biggest, downfall to a lot of them were I wasn't reading the instructions all the way through to the end. I was just saying, oh, I can do this. I can figure it out. And had I just read the instructions a little better, things would have came out a lot. And I didn't really take the time to make sure that, to slow down. I was just trying to get it through the machine and get it pieced. And I wasn't taking the time to make sure that my pieces were a 1/4 inch so they get off. And then I hand sewed the binding on instead of machine sewing it, which you can do. And I should have used a coordinating fabric or thread with it, and I didn't. I used white. Although this is the back of the quilt, and I, use these little rings to sew on there to hang it. You can put, I will add in these, you don't have to do it. I actually, for wall hangings, so long as they're not heavily done and this one's got a thicker batting in it, because that was the batting I had. Now I tend to use the Warm and Natural or the Warm and White. It's a much thinner cotton batting or cotton blend batting, and you can get 100% cotton batting as well, and it's thinner. So if you're looking to do a bigger quilt, that might be something you might be really interested in doing if you're going to put it on as a bedspread to keep you warm, because cotton will keep you cool and it'll keep you warm. So this big fluffy stuff, it's okay, especially if you want more dimension in your quilt. I just find that it just doesn't lay as nice, I don't think, unless you're going to use a big walking foot or a quilting machine to quilt it, and that's just personal preference. You may find that you like and you work well with those kind of things. So experimenting is okay. It's perfectly natural and something that, I would recommend that you do. But like I said, back to the hanging, I will include instructions on how to make a sleeve. So if you want to hang your wall hanging with a wooden dowel, you can. I have found that because a straight pin will hold, I think somebody said a straight pin, like a normal straight pin, like these pins, right? The big long ones, they will hold about 10 pounds of weight. So if you distribute them, it's no problem. All of my wall hangings actually in my house are hung using straight pins. And I try to find the head pin that kind of coordinates with the fabric so it kind of blends in on the wall. If you can't, you can just take the little ball off and just push the pin in. The great thing about that is I don't have to put an extra thing here. I don't have to worry about a dowel and a wall hanging system and all that. These are also they work very well. You can get these in Joann's, Walmart, any of the fabric stores. They all have these they're just little circular, I don't know what they're really called. I have some, hold on. Okay, so I grabbed them. So you can get them in different sizes. I think they're called Cabone Rings. That's what these are. And you can get them in different sizes. You can get smaller ones if you want. You could put 3 to hang on nails. You just nail it in the wall and then hang it that way. But like I said, I prefer a straight pin. I don't have to add pieces. I don't have to build or buy a wall hanging system. If that's what you want to do to accentuate your wall hangings or quilts, I don't discourage it. That is why I will include the instructions on how to make one on the back, but I will not be doing that on the back of mine. Like I said, I just poke a straight pin in right into the wall, and boom, it holds fine. I've never had my quilts distort or stretch or anything. So with those, in fact, that butterfly and dragonfly one that I showed you guys in a previous video, that one hangs on my wall with those, so not a problem. So that was one of them, and let's see. I've got this one, which is unfinished, and I used these, the little tag gun, the tag hanging gun. They use them in the store to, like, for clothing and stuff, but they're really good to attach because they go all the way through. And I did start, and I stippled a little bit on it. I just never finished it. And this is one I'm fairly happy with, and I just didn't get it done. So this is one that I will be finishing. And I'll probably just bind it with some, probably black, or even some red or something, to just finish it up. Because it's, like I said, it's partially quilted. I want to do some stitch in the ditch, which is, just in between the fabric lines there. The only thing I don't like is because I used plaid on the back, the directional portion is off. And I really didn't take the time to consider when I was cutting my pieces that is how it would come out. I should have turned the fabric and you know, try to do it in a different dimension, or you know, something along those lines. Because or just used the plaid on the dog because it would have been much easier to patch up, or you know. But those are things that you know you need to think about when you're choosing your fabrics and when you're quilting, is directional pieces, which I learned a big lesson from. Now this one was one that I did. I did not do this whole quilt. It was I belonged to a quilting guild, and oh, sorry. They, what we did was we kind of swapped blocks. You started with your center block and you passed it on to the next person, and they added, you know, there was instructions. They could add a border, or they could add something, and then another border, and then another border, and then this is kind of how it came out. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's a pansy in the middle, okay? And I try to keep it pink and stuff, and I like the block. I just wish I would have used a different color in the center, or a smaller pattern in there. And then, like I said, it got you know, sent around, and somebody did like a quite crazy patch style border on the outer portion. And then there was a one that where you had to do an applique piece, and it's been sitting in there. It is finished. I didn't bind it the same way. I actually did like an added piece because my piece in the back wasn't long enough, so I just did it this way, kind of turned it inside out and sewed it together, which I don't like, and I won't do that anymore. I will bind all of my quilts with bias. But it's been sitting for a while. Some of the threads have pulled, and you know, but other than that, it's a beautiful quilt. I only did the stitch and ditch. This is one that I hand stitched instead, but I cannot hand stitch anymore because the arthritis is bad, so that is something I can't do anymore. So, but there's that one. And like I said, you know, I mean, some of them have some really great qualities, and others are just like, ugh, okay. Now this is one that is once again not finished. It was supposed to be a Christmas wall hanging. As you can see, I did a stitch in the ditch, and I pulled all of my threads to the front because the machine I had did not do a knot stitch on the back side to tie it off. So I pulled all these through so that I could tie them off. Well, what a pain in the butt, right? So, yeah, when I have to stitch in a ditch like that, see how I tied them off all in here, so I have to pull all those threads to the back and tie them all off. So I got like what, 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks done, and I got to the 5th, and I just got frustrated. It is a pretty quilt. I like the colors of it. You know, it's very wintry. I still have actually some of like this fabric, I think, and some of this in my stash somewhere. But I liked it. It was fun to do. Some of the blocks are not matching up, but you know, I did this one a little after the other ones so that, let me flip open my thing there. Hopefully it didn't shade it. But it's a wall hanging size. But you know, I think I didn't really coordinate that well with my fabric, but I did a better job. And, you know, it was a project that I wanted to do. And then when I figured out, oh my gosh, I got to do all this, I got frustrated and bloop, said I'm done. So it's one that I will, you know, I may turn around, and now that I have a better machine, pull all that stitching out, and then, you know, I can go back in with my newer machine and do that. So it is one of those on the list of things to do. And then, so this one, last but not least, this was my experiment with doing, I think they call this like poly something. You take a shape and you stack all your fabrics going, you find a point that's the same, and you cut like some pieces out, and then you pin through the center to make sure all your pieces line up. So like all of the, let me see if I can find it. Like on this one, I kind of screwed up and I put them on backwards. I wasn't paying attention because what? I wasn't reading the instructions correctly. But what it was supposed to be was all those flowers were supposed to be pinned together. And then when you cut that shape, they're all symmetrical. So then you get like this really pretty pattern, which, you know, I mean, it's okay because I got these flowers here and because it did go in, it kind of, but I think it would have looked better if I had maybe like 2 over here or something like that. This one, it came out okay, but like I said, I wasn't paying that close attention to what was going on. And, you know, this one, I finally figured it out when I cut all my pieces, and actually the pieces all met together, and it was really great. So I liked that block. But the color choices, I just was experimenting. So this was kind of like one of those, see, I did it again here, and then I did 2 blocks there. You know, this one I liked because of the pattern that it made in the center. Some of my blocks, though, did not quite meet up correctly because I wasn't taking the time, like I said, to make sure that my 1/4 inch seams were 1/4 inch. And it happens. It's like with any sewing project. You know, you've probably done it with journaling too. You didn't like something, it didn't set right, you had to kind of take it apart and redo it again. But I found if you go slow with your stitching, with your piecing, you normally will come out really well. You'll really like what you end up doing. You'll thank yourself for it. This one came out really well. This is something that I would like to experiment with, but now that I have the Accu quilt system, I can see how this will make it so much easier to cut my pieces, because then I just got to make sure all my pieces are matched, right? And then pin the sides so that they don't shift, and then run it through the machine, and then boom, I don't have to worry about miscutting, right? And then this one. But like I said, there's so many multiple colors in this. I just did it as an experiment because it was something I wanted to try. And then I started to hand quilt in there, so you can see how old that is because I don't hand quilt anymore. And then the color, you know, they just don't go together. It was just one of those throw together. I wanted to try it, and I did. So, but you can see on the back, I hand stitched part of it. So this is probably something that will never get done. It's just kind of, I keep it as a reminder that, hey, you know, you got to slow down. And if you keep to your project and you keep to the steady, you'll start to really see how things are coming out so great and perfect that you'll continue to, you know, go. You won't get discouraged. Now, is that to say you won't ever get discouraged? No, absolutely not. Okay, you will. If you've never quilted or pieced or done anything, the first couple pieces you do, you're probably going to get frustrated. So I'm gonna throw that out there. It's the truth of it. But practice, practice, practice. So, you know, before you cut the fabric that you bought for the block or the wall hanging, take some scrap stuff and just practice. I use a guide, although my machine has a 1/4 inch, it has a little nick marked on it, and also my plate has 1/4 inch. I use a guide so that my fabric lays up against it, and I just go very slow. There's magnetic ones. I think you guys have seen me use that one. You can put a piece of tape down and just tape it, a long piece, so that you can keep your, you know, piece there if you don't want to buy one. You can use you know, you get that sticky foam, you know, we use for card making and stuff, and just take one side off, measure that 1/4 inch and stick it down there. It's lifted up enough to keep your fabric in there, you know, and it's not too sticky that it'll make you know, that you can't take it off your machine if you don't want it there. I like the magnetic one because when I'm not using it, if I'm stippling and I need that big space, I can just take it off. And of course I need to take it off for embroidery too. So, but like I said, I promised you guys, and I do want to give you guys a little sneaky peek Now these are rough drafts. These are the things that I printed out so that I could build the quilt, and I built a block. Most of these are called, I think, like the railroad, but I used 3 instead of 4, and so that way you'll be able to use different size blocks, but they're very simple strips. I think the strip is very easy to cut, rotary cut. I will be rotary cutting with this one because it is the first block. I do have plates that will cut, you know, the rectangles, but I want to show you guys step by step. And then in other ones, I will show you how to rotary cut and also how to use the AccuQuilt blocks as well. So on this one, this is the block we're going to do. I'm going to call this wall hanging. Let's see if we find that front cover and show you. And these are the actual fabrics I will be using. I scanned them in. The Crazy Stairway to Nowhere is what I'm going to call it, because it's just crazy staircases, you know, all the way up. This, I think, is it looks complicated, but this is it's the simple three blocks, and it's just turning it, and then turning it, and turning it, and then you make 4 of these, boom, together, and then a border, and then we'll have a binding around it. So very, very simple. I'm hoping you guys, I'm trying to make it, I know it looks kind of crazy, but this is just the rough pages that I printed out for my guide to building it. You know, 3 basic fabrics on the front. You can go, I'm going to use an additional coordinating one on the back, but most people don't. I mean, some people might flip up your quilt on the back, but, you know, and we'll use the same fabric here for the binding. And so that's the sneaky peek of what's coming up. I'm working on it now. In fact, I'm trying to get it, I want to try and get it finished up today if I can, get it printed out and run a sample through the machine to make sure that I can, you know, I'm not skipping any instructions, and it's very easy for you guys to do. So, and like I said, I will be giving this one away. So, you know, you'll just have to get the fabrics. I got those fabrics I got at Joann's. So if you have a Joann's near you, you can, or just use the scraps that you have in there. Just, you know, I don't know, be inventive. It's your first one, right? Or for some of you, it may not be your first one. You just want to try and do some wall hangings and some different things, or have a project or something to do, you know, which is great as well. So anyways, guys, like I said, I just wanted to come on because I told you guys I would show you those quilts, and just let you know what I've got going on. I think the next video we got going is the next week's Margaret Miller. Hopefully we don't lose that one. But like I said, I hired my daughter to take care of all my social media, so when I download stuff, she's backing it all up for me, so we won't have, hopefully, a problem again. But I hope you guys are staying warm. It's 18 degrees outside and snowing here, and we've probably got about 1.5 inches of snow right now, and it's still going. It's slowed a little bit, but the chickens don't want to come out of the coop. They're like, we came out the first day it snowed, we investigated, and we are done with that. Staying in a nice warm coop. But until next time, guys, plenty of hugs, loves, and blessings. Bye, guys.